right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. Friday! This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 187 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you are using to listen to this show allows you to leave a review or a rating on the show, please consider leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. If you can write a review, please write a review. What happens when you do this, when somebody is using the same app as you and they're looking for a weight loss related podcast, it just causes the Ranting Weight Watcher to show up a little higher on that list, enabling further growth of the podcast. One of the best things you can do to support this podcast is literally anybody you know within 3 feet of you that you know is in the same position we are in, that you know my message would help them in their journey. Tell them about the show. Tell them how to find it. Show them the app you use to listen to me. Help them get to my message, and that will further grow the podcast. I'd like to take a moment to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of this podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. Joining me on the podcast, I have 2 guest hosts today, Sophie and Heather. Sophie is a national coach for WW. She does have workshops virtually that you can attend on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m., Wednesday nights, 8 p.m., and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. These are all Eastern Standard Time. So if that's something you're interested in, you can certainly go into the workshop finder and search for her name and attend on those days. Heather has a podcast in development called Midlife Montage. It is in the development phase, and I will inform all of you once it actually begins. If you would like to connect with any of them on social media, their links will be below in the description of this podcast. Well, today is part 2 of the Redemption series, and we have 2 members who did not make it to the first episode's recording, so I'm going to quickly introduce them to you. Phyllis, Jody, welcome to the show. Jody, you want to tell everyone about yourself a little bit?
So I'm Jody. I have been a member of Weight Watchers now for close to 2 years. My story began when I was a child. I struggled with feeling abandoned. I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel worth it. My parents had left me with my grandparents. For the following years, my identity became that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worth fighting for. That led to many years of me trying to find myself in everything, drugs, alcohol, men, then it turned to food. For the most part, I was apathetic to how much weight I was gaining. But then I found Weight Watchers and Sophie's group, and I found your podcast. I began following Christine Hronick with Gauge Girl Training. That was not only a game changer, but a complete life changer because of getting some of my physical behaviors under control. It started helping with my depression. I was able to start attending church again, and I had a revival of my faith. That's why I'm here, is to finally face all those emotions that I've been keeping bottled up.
Thank you so much. And Phyllis, you are also here for the first time.
Yes, my story's probably similar to a lot of other people in that I was an overweight child and a more overweight adolescent and struggled with trying to have that right relationship with food really for all my life. When I was in my late 30s, after our fourth child was born, I decided to join Weight Watchers. That was actually in 1991. I became a lifetime member in 92. And most of the time I've stayed within that lifetime goal range. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I started to put weight on. There were a lot of different reasons, but during that time, I put more weight on than I had in a long, long time. Good news is that about a year ago, I really started to work on that. I'm now back in my goal range and working at losing the next bit of weight to get to my kind of ideally where I'd like to be. Some people say, well, does it ever get easier? And I'd say, yeah, you practice good behaviors and the good behaviors get easier. I love this group. I love the fact that people are honest here. And I love the support and encouragement that I have found in this group.
Thank you so much for joining the show. Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of the redemption series of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. I gave you an assignment over the past month. Part of that assignment was to look for a trend in something you struggle with. Now, one trend I got with a number of you is the feeling of being overwhelmed. Does anybody want to talk about the feeling of being overwhelmed? Cheryl, you go ahead.
What happens is, after doing this journal, I figured it out, kind of. I feel overwhelmed, like I have too much to do, and it triggers me to want to eat the wrong things. It's like I have no control. It's almost like an out-of-body experience where I start eating and I can't stop myself. Not sure how to handle it. It keeps happening. It's not as bad when I finally realize I'm doing it. I'm sometimes able to stop, and I've stopped it before I start gaining back weight. But I'm afraid because I think this is what has happened to me multiple times now.
Anybody else that had mentioned feeling overwhelmed want to chime in as well? Go ahead, Jody.
It feels like there's so many things. My mind is turning in all these different directions. It's hard to pick and choose what my priorities should be. At the end of the day, it's a nothing at all because I can't separate what I should separate.
Kathy, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I was going to just echo what Jody and Cheryl just said. It's like when all the things around me are changing beyond my control, and the very thing that I should be able to control, which is what I eat, drink, move, and track, are the very thing that it escapes me because I allow the circumstances around me to become so overwhelming that I become paralyzed. And the decision to eat well and take care of myself is escaping me every single minute of the day because I'm focused on those other circumstances that are beyond my control. I truly think that is the issue for me, the overwhelm. And once I'm in that overwhelm zone, it's like there's no returning because I'm gone off the deep end someplace else doing all the things that do not align with my goals.
Heather or Sophie, have anything to say to any of them?
Oh yeah, I can definitely relate to all of them. I think the first step is to determine what's important to you and what you value the most. Especially having so much to do. And I know Jody mentioned, it's summertime and all these things are coming up and it's hard to have that focus. It's important to kind of take that step back and say, okay, what is important to me right now and what do I value? Once you do that, then you can plan ahead and then you could start to make these intentional choices, plan on how to spend your time. And I know it's easier said than done, and it's not the easiest thing to do, but taking those few moments to figure out what is important to you. I know for me personally, this phone right here can take up a lot of my time. I haven't been on social media a lot because it is a time suck. Something I personally have made that choice that what do I value? Not social media, it's my goals and my health. So I think that's definitely the first step.
Heather, you have anything?
I think the main thing is just what really deserves your time. Because whatever you invest your time in, that's what you're going to get back. If you don't invest time in what's important, you're not going to receive any dividends, period. It doesn't matter. And like I've started putting my phone in do not disturb all day because I have messages from work, personal, text messages, all of it. And it just annoys me. At this point, if it's not life or death, it can wait. I get up early between 2:30 and 3. I'm at the gym by 3:30. That's pretty much the only guaranteed way that I will work out. Before I do anything for anybody else, I'm going to do for myself. If you don't take care of you, you can't take care of the people around you that you love. You are worth the time and you are worth the energy. You are worth telling other people no. You have to learn how to set boundaries, not only with yourself, but with other people.
I like that because I know when the pandemic started, I got pulled in every direction between my full-time job and then I was trying to take care of all my members, right? Because everyone was kind of up in arms. My husband at the time was like, Sophie, you can't save everybody. You can't. And it's something I want to do. I want to help everybody. That's something I love to do. And it's like no is a sentence, saying no to people. And it's something that I personally had to work on because I was just pulled everywhere. And Donato knows this too. I was pulled everywhere and I was burnt out. I was burnt out trying to help everyone. And in that moment, in that time, I wasn't taking care of myself at all.
Cynthia, go ahead.
My overwhelm is very selective. Not for the 4 weeks, but when it shows up is at the end of the day, I'm done eating. I ate the 6 ounces of meat that Donato told me I should eat, and like I'm not hungry. But all the feelings of the day are coming to me. There's nobody around. So I start eating chocolate chips. And I know that's wrong because I've been journaling. So my question is, how do I become a person that can deal with the feelings without feeling that I have to restart from zero? Because that's what I feel. I don't feel like I'm in control. I feel like I'm at day 1 of Weight Watchers and I can handle this. I really want to pick your brain, Donato, because like, what do you do when it's just like you don't struggle with that all the time, but it comes and goes? So that's my question.
My coping mechanism used to be food. My defense mechanism became get out and get as far away from food as possible. But you're saying this is happening to you at night. I'm thinking about it here, and you guys even have something different than I had. This doesn't just have to be willpower. This could be, you're doing this journal, and that's not something I ever did. So you can use this journal as a weapon to defeat the things that you're trying to defeat. There's a reason you write something you're grateful for every single day. There's a reason you write there's something you're proud of every single day. And it's not just so you can bring them and talk them about them here. It's that in the moment, maybe reminding yourself of what you're grateful for is exactly what you'll need to continue and defeat this moment. Because that's what it's all about, right? The first moment is the hardest one to defeat, and the ones that come after it get a little bit easier each time. Are you going to win every battle? No. But if you started to feel this, whatever it is you're feeling that will cause you to want to turn to food, and instead you grab your journal and you go somewhere, whether you can go outside just to be in the fresh air or whether you go to a room privately, whatever you can do, just get away and get as far away from the food as possible and start reading from random pages in that journal, things that you're grateful for, things that you're proud of. Keep going for over and over and over again for 5 and 10 minutes. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the key. Maybe the journal is just as much a sword as it is something you're using to gauge trends in your life.
We tend to go to what we're comfortable with. So if we're comfortable reaching for cookies when we're tired or stressed, that's where we're going to go. It's something we're used to. But, you broke that cycle, Donato, and you're like, get me away, get me out of here. And it takes 1, 2, 3 times, to start doing that. And then you're going to notice a difference. You definitely are. But I think we can all agree we go to what is comfortable, and it takes time to start building those habits and those new routines.
And you could easily say that the first time is going to be the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, the food in this moment is the same thing as a cigarette to a smoker. It's the same thing as alcohol to a drinker. What you turn to in the moment of stress is essentially your idol. It's what you worship in the moment that you feel it, right? And I don't want to leave you guys hanging either. Jane, go ahead. You had your hands up for a while.
So a couple things. One, I can really relate to that. And what I figured out this past month is that is such a huge thing for me, is to always go to the food. I had to accept that, number one. And then I had to find alternatives. So when you get that conversation, what are you going to do? So I came up with, I listen to books on tape. When I do the audiobooks, I'm usually walking my dog. So it's like, I call it a 2-for-1, but I had to find alternatives, like you said. And the other thing I just want to touch on is that I had to realize that this isn't going to happen overnight. And I'm a fast mover. I like things to happen quickly. And thank God for the journaling, because it really hasn't been a long time that we've really been trying hard at this. And I've come to a lot of good things that have come forward from it. Even though at times I feel like it's going too slow, I haven't done enough. But when I read back on my journal, I have, and I am moving forward. So I'm really happy about that.
And Taffy, go ahead. You have your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned is, although being very overwhelmed is a big thing, really busy, the whole thing, but my why has changed in this last month. I realized that sugar is my drug. First 3 weeks, what I decided to do was to absolutely start my day with a no sugar breakfast. And for the first 3 weeks, I was really good. And then hosted book club, and somebody brought brownies and said, hey, I did this for you. You've got to have one. And I was at the point after the first 3 weeks that, yeah, I can do this. I can have one. I had 2. And what I found out was it made me feel not just guilty, but physically sick in ways that I haven't experienced. I think I went through total withdrawal in those first 3 weeks. I mean, I felt nauseated. I just felt horrible. I had to back up and rethink that again. And the last couple of days after that were really hard. And I think that's probably what made me answer in my journal that I struggled with being overwhelmed, just because of where I was that last week.
When you mentioned just a second ago, you decided to have, like, especially breakfast, your first breakfast with 0 sugar.
Yes.
Can you remember that day and tell me how you felt your first breakfast with no sugar?
Oh my God. Well, I will have to admit that the first day was hard. It was weird. I must have really been having a lot more sugar than what I thought, because I had headaches. I was tired. The first probably 3 days, I was, tired. I was also including lattes with, sugar in it too. So I had caffeine. I'd given up all that. So I wasn't feeling really good. But I got to tell you, by about the 5th day, my life just turned around. My energy level turned around. I felt better. My attitude changed. I was motivated. I was a different person, but, and it was enough. It was enough to make me recognize that my why is no longer fitting into an outfit that I love. My why is that I have really got to look at this sugar addiction.
We also had some after dinner eating as an issue. Loretta, Jackie, either one of you want to start off? Go ahead, Jackie.
I'm so frustrated, and I get very frustrated with myself because I know I can do this and I did it before, and I don't know why. It seems hopeless to me. And that's the only word that I can think of. It's like a hopeless feeling, like I'm never going to get this right. I mean, I can be good all the way up till 8 o'clock at night. Then I start with the snacks, and okay, low point, I'll have some pretzel. Okay, I'll eat the popcorn for 0 points. And it just escalates from then. And then by the end of the night, I don't even care. It's just like, I want the cookie. I want this. I want that. And I just can't draw the line. And that's where the hopeless feeling comes from.
Have you taken a moment to think of what's happening in that moment? So it seems like everything's okay during the day, but at 8 p.m. or 7 p.m., whatever time it is, have you looked at what's going on? Like, is something bothering you? Are you bored? Thinking of things, kind of like dig deep to see what's actually happening in that moment.
In the moment, I'm probably just sitting on the couch watching television with my husband, and we haven't seen each other all day, and he might want to have a little snack too, but it just sort of like escalates. There might be 1 or 2 days that I'm okay, but more often than not, during the week, it's like it just happens. I'm not strong enough, or I don't know what I can do to just say stop to myself. I don't need this,
Can I just say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about strength. It's about your first choice of a snack. The first choice, I mean, the way snacks, the way all of these foods, especially anything that comes in a wrapper. How long was the advertisement for chips? You can't just have one. It's not because the chips taste so good. It's that because the company that makes those chips has designed them in a way that you cannot have just one. And so when they figured out how to do that, then they just applied it to literally every food item they make. And if you think you have a choice in food item, the same companies own other companies. If I'm the big guy on top and I could see I own this company that makes junk food, and I own this company that everybody perceives to be healthy choices, why wouldn't I include the same ingredients in the healthy choice food to make those things, just the same? I have never finished a protein bar and not wanted a second one. In all of the years I've been eating protein bars, I never finished one. I had my last protein bar that I said, that's it. I'm never eating a protein bar again. That protein bar was specifically chosen because of the fat content. It was 390 calories for that protein bar. And it was specifically chosen because it was like a keto-esque, this is extra fat in this protein bar. And it was supposed to give you more, make you more satisfied. I chose that, and I still was eating the last bite. I just consumed 400 calories essentially and wanted a second one. And I can't even lie to you and say I didn't have moments where I chose a second one. I essentially consumed 800 calories just with 2 bars. Okay? Mm-hmm. The foods that come in wrappers are designed this way, right? So your battle against that could start with simply, what is the first choice of snack? If you bought a melon that was a pound, right, and you ate the melon, you would feel satisfied, and there would be no ingredient in the melon that would make you want another melon, right? Or right. If watermelon, honeydew, cantaloupe, I mean, anything, any one of those things, a massive amount of fruit wouldn't be good in its own right if you ate so much of it, but at the same time, it's better than what you're currently choosing. And it wouldn't feel nearly as much of a failure. But so I just wanted to impart that on you.
Yeah, that's definitely worth a shot. I think I'm going to approach it a little bit differently this week. My week starts tomorrow because I'm off just 3 days in a row, and then I start. So tomorrow's my week starts. So I put this all behind me, and maybe that's what I need to do. I need to do a different approach and choose something
And
different.
if you also make your last meal heavier on the protein.
Yes.
Right.
But so that's another strategic move. Almost overeating 0 point proteins can be better than overeating snacks. Right. And
Right.
so that's what I'd say about that. And I know Loretta's got to also speak about this too. So I'm going to let her speak.
Okay. I was just glad to see a trend. It was like a flashing light saying, okay, you eat your breakfast at 8:30, sometimes as late as 10, and then you have your lunch. If work is real busy, I'm occupied or I have demands, I'm not thinking about food. Next thing I know, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I'm having lunch. And then, well, I don't want to eat at 5 or 6, but I wait till 8. Well, I'm not going to cook then. So I think I really have to plan. I just have to plan better. Go heavy on the protein for my dinner like I do for breakfast and lunch, because when I don't have a lot of protein breakfast and lunch, I'm a crazy person at night. I am, gonna eat everything that's not nailed down if it's in my house. I was glad to see the flashing light of you got to plan better. And I like planning, so that's good.
Anne Marie, you mentioned rationalizing to enable the behavior. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So this past month, actually, I've done very well. I planned out my food. I've kind of stuck to new macros that I'm doing and moved more, everything doing really well. However, I still find that I will have just random thoughts that will just pop in my head like, oh, you know what? You could just have, one of those. Why don't you buy some more milk bars? Because I was really going after snacky foods in the past. And I've really done away with them, except for the last things that I had were these protein built bars. But in my head, I would try to rationalize every once in a while, pop in, you know what, they're actually only 150 calories, and they're this many grams of protein. They really fit in your plan, but they're like a candy bar. They're a crutch. So I have to talk to myself. I really talk myself through it. Like, crutches are not something that are forever. Crutches are something to help you get through something. So I have to just say, no, you're doing what's good for your body. And so I've really tried to change my thoughts that, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to feel good and I want to be healthy. And, having, a bar is not as healthy as having some fruit. If I want something that's going to be more like a treat, then I'm going to have a serving of fruit. So, but these thoughts will just keep, they pop in all the time. But like kind of what you said, Donato, is like when you can identify that, I know that I have these thoughts that will pop in. So I have to identify them, like, and I've kind of joked about, I have the, the devil and the angel that pop up, and I know that that's going to happen. I just try to push them aside and keep going. And, I can't say that I haven't given into them. But the one time I think that I really did give in, and I talked myself into having some wine out by the pool because I got some new cool glasses, and I felt horrible. The sugar from them made me feel horrible.
Darren, we had kind of touched on emotional eating a little bit, and you had mentioned alcohol. Would you say that you turn to alcohol a little bit during emotional times, or it's just what would you say the reason is?
100%. It falls the same category. So I was totally relating with the emotional eating discussion. So it's just the vice that you turn to, your idol, as you said. Hit it dead spot on.
Would you say there are any triggers?
Anxiety.
Is anxiety like in regards to work, or?
I would say in regards to weight, it's the spiral. You have anxiety about, not doing this, kind of losing your way. And then all of a sudden, you turn down the wrong path, and it's just the never ending spiral, if you will.
You make a choice that you aren't proud of, and then it leads to wanting a drink?
It does, yes.
Okay.
And then you do that, and then then you tend to make bad food choices, and then you make a couple bad choices, and you lose your way, and you instead of just stopping, you make a second bad choice, and then you make a third bad choice, until you can kind of find your path again.
Kathy, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, like for me personally, I find that sometimes the alcohol becomes a issue. I think you mentioned in one of your podcasts that I didn't even think about. It's a transference. Like if I'm no longer looking at the food and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to eat the food, but then I'm finding myself in other places. I'm either shopping to get that little dopamine hit, or I'm drinking to get something, because in my head, drinking alcohol, wine, whatever, never goes in my tracker. I never track that. It's like it didn't happen. And I'm in avoidance of it. But I heard you say on one of your podcasts about the transference. So I think I'm tiptoeing around in the transference, because the food can be on lock, but all of a sudden I'm shopping and my credit card debt is increasing beyond my imagination. And then there's the tiptoeing through the tulips with the drink. You're laughing. I thought you're laughing at
I'm
me.
not laughing. No, I'm not laughing at all.
No, I'm looking at Heather.
I know all about transference. I could totally relate to the shopping thing. I mean, big time. When I gave up food as my go-to for things, the behavior of compulsively shopping, definitely. I mean, I had Amazon website open almost all day long. I have 3 screens sitting in front of me. I only used 2 of them for work. The other one had Amazon open all day long, and I'm adding stuff to the cart. There's definitely a dopamine chasing mechanism in regards to shopping. And if there's one thing we should all prove to ourselves, that becoming healthy is so much more than food. It's so much more than a scale result itself. Loretta, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank, was it Darren? He moved. Yes, Darren, for bringing up that conversation about the alcohol. When we first met, I had said, I don't stay on plan when I go out with my girlfriends. Like I have all intentions of doing, 2 drinks, an appetizer, and we're going home. And the next thing you know, we are tee-hee and ha-ha and having a great old time. And we're having another appetizer and another drink. So, and I swear my pastor sometimes on Sunday, he's looking at me like, some things have to change in your life. And I'm like, it's the alcohol. It's the alcohol. But I really appreciate him bringing that into the conversation, because if I'm going to be truthful with myself, that is a hang up for me too sometimes. Like it gets me off plan. So thank you, Darren.
Sophie, Heather, you guys have anything to add?
I was just going to say something.
Go ahead.
Did you read my mind? You read my mind. I liked something else Darren said, and maybe we can talk about it on another podcast. But that's one of the things that I talk about in my workshops, and it's in regards to the mindset piece of the journey, right? And it's when we overindulge and then we beat ourselves up, and that's what he was stating on. It's like we just keep going, and then he's like, all right, I'll just have some alcohol at this point, and this slip then becomes this huge slide, and we need to learn, and it takes time to do this, because I before I joined Weight Watchers, I was like this as well. And I've told the story, like I was the Monday girl. I'm gonna start on Monday, and my Mondays turn into months and months and months. But it's saying, okay, I overindulged. What's my next step? So instead of beating myself up and hurting myself, because when we beat ourselves up, who are we hurting? We're hurting ourselves. What's my next step? What can I do next? And saying, I'll just reach for the alcohol, or I'm just going to wait till Monday. And I think that's a good conversation we could have maybe on a upcoming.
Could definitely bring that up on another episode. Sure.
I can relate to the drinking. I had discussed this with you.
Yeah.
The drinking, it's not the actual drinking, it's the after part that tends to ruin all of my progress, because it can last for a day or 2 days depending on how much I drank. I've gotten a lot better, and I'm so proud of myself because alcoholism runs in my family. Being able to control it is very important to me. And I'm to the point now where I literally made a pros and cons list. What are the good things about drinking? What are the bad things? And the cons by far outweigh the pros. I've just gotten to the point where I just don't want to do it anymore. It's just not worth it. The recovery and how I feel after, how I eat, I'm lethargic. It's just not worth it. I mean, I was a heavy smoker at one time. And when I say I smoked, I was smoking. If I went out and was drinking before, they stopped smoking in public places, I could smoke 1 to 2 packs a day because I was a chain smoker. So I'm drinking and lighting up. So I've come a long, long way. You have to get to a point where you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Okay. The one person we haven't talked about it. So, Phyllis, you mentioned your struggle with pre-planning. I wasn't sure if that meant pre-planning for the week, or if you want to just elaborate on that.
Yes, looking at my journal, I noticed that when I see a particularly challenging situation is coming up, I plan my meals. I make sure I have the food. I shop. I plan the menu. I prepare the food, and I do great. When I have normal, what I call everyday life, I tend to not do that, and that's when I don't do so well. So, I just tend to be like, oh yeah, I'm at home. I can get stuff ready, but I just, that's the pattern that came up in my journal.
I see that Jody has her hand up too. Did you want to comment on that?
When I had mentioned that, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I tend to go for the quick and easy unless I have something already prepared. And so I definitely relate to that, because if I can spend however long I need to in the kitchen and prepping for a week when I know it's going to be busy. And that way I have stuff ready. But on the weeks when, like Phyllis said, it's just a normal week, I don't do that. And that's when it hits me in the evening when I'm so tired and everything from the day. That's what happens. I go for quick and easy, which tends to be fast food if I don't already have something fixed.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. The conversation tonight has been absolutely incredible. And just to bring it all to a conclusion, I just want to give you guys some guidance here as to, you did your journal entries, you found your trends. So now the next step is going to be in the Facebook group, come up with a plan on how you're going to battle that trend that you found for the next 4 weeks until we meet again, and then execute that plan. And if you want to post for accountability in the redemption group, then go ahead and do that. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Now I have one last thing I want to ask of you guys. Okay, everyone. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to tell everyone who's listening just one thing that you are grateful for.
I am grateful
I'm grateful
I am grateful
I'm really grateful
to have the loving support of my family as I go through this journey.
to be practicing consistency.
for having transparency with myself, not lying to myself, just being honest.
for this opportunity. Journaling has really helped me put my feelings down on paper so I can go back and review what's been happening, what's going on. When I get overwhelmed, not feel so overwhelmed, because I have that to go back to.
The thing I'm most grateful for
I'm grateful for
I'm grateful.
I am grateful.
is the journal. It has changed my life over the last month in more ways than I can actually count. It's really helped me a lot, and I'm glad that you suggested it.
A sound, clear mind and a healthy body that I can take a walk and my body can move and I can enjoy what's around me.
That my mind is open. I want to learn to be successful. I want to learn.
That I do not give up on myself ever.
I am grateful for
I am so grateful
the hope and the possibility of a better life as I have tested and tried many things, but today I feel better as I'm getting older.
Consistently showing up and believing in myself.
for having the gratitude journal and realizing that I've got so much to be grateful for.
I'm grateful.
I am grateful for
I am definitely grateful.
I am so incredibly grateful
that I really enjoy walking and exercising now.
God who gives me the strength to do this every day and the community that I have found.
For my family and friends who helped me through a really tough year last year, and they helped me become stronger.
that no matter how inadequate I may feel about my journey, about this podcast, that God is in control. He's in control of my journey. He's in control of this podcast. He's in control of this group. And no matter what I feel about any given moment or how I set up something, in the blink of an eye, He can inspire an idea that changes it all. And maybe the people with me might go a little crazy because I changed things up at the last minute, but it's going to be okay because God is in control. He's in control of everything. And I know I just have to let go and let God when things get truly difficult. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.